Heard a lot of good positive things this morning about the cycle tourism economy. And maybe it's time to take a look at where our region stands. Just what do we have to offer, and are we ready? First, let's look at what's available or could be attractive to cyclists, starting with some safe routes to ride. Here we've got some really great trails that are as well developed and maintained, such as the well-developed and maintained backbone of the region, the Ottawa Valley Algonquin Trail. And while it'd be nice if this name was not such a mouthful, that's a discussion for another day. This trail has got a well-developed light surface, currently stands at around 300 kilometers in length, and is still growing as it runs through Smiths Falls, northward to Petawawa, and soon all the way to Chalk River. It's got a smooth surface, with a couple of exceptions. It's well marked. There are towns and villages nicely spaced along this route where cyclists can find food and drink, accommodations, bicycle repair service, as well as some treats and some points of interest. It is possible for a cyclist armed with little more than the clothes on their back and a credit card in their pocket to ride from one end to the other over a single multi-day trip, as I and a lot of others have already done. However, it does currently present some challenges. Many, if not all, of the services that a cycle tourist might want are not directly on the trail. That's common for nearly every trail that I've ever ridden. What is lacking, as we've heard today multiple times, is signage to tell the cycle traveler where things are. When I rode the Great Allegheny Passage and the C&O Canal Trail from Pittsburgh to Washington, D.C., nearly every town along that trail had some sort of signage or information kiosk to let me know where to find things like food, washrooms, and bicycle repair. Of course, that region is the region that developed the trail town concept years ago, so you would kind of expect them to be ahead of us. There were also some problems in passing through the towns. Please understand that I'm not trying to criticize here. But it would help again to see things through the eyes of a cyclist. I did my trip in 2020 and I was passing through Smiths Falls, connecting from the Cataraqui Trail to the Ottawa Valley Trail. There was no signage directing me from one trail to the other, and I was left to find my own route through the town's busy streets. Well, since then, I've been informed the town is correcting this deficiency, and I look forward to an easier passage the next time I travel through. And good on you, Smiths Falls, for having the good sense to see this potential. Arnprior could also use some better signage, especially as they have two nice trails connecting here. A bit of directional signage to connect the Centennial Trail, which goes by a couple different names, by the way, to the Algonquin Trail would make both more attractive, and directing cyclists to a safe downtown route where there are plenty of interesting things to do, to buy, to eat, and to drink would also be a really good idea. Renfrew, they've done a great job of connecting the Algonquin to the K&P Trail, and kudos to them for doing this. But I have to find my own way across the busy Highway 60 crossing in town by riding down the grass to a nearby traffic light. See that little grassy strip? They've got a nice paved trail on the other side of the road, but you've got to basically play, remember the old game Frogger? You've got to basically play Frogger to get across that street if you go there. But just down the corner, it's a traffic light with a button that you can push. A little bit of crushed gravel on the side of the trail would certainly make that a lot more user-friendly. And it wouldn't cost a whole lot. Pembroke, they've got a similar problem where the trail crosses busy Pembroke Street. And while I'm talking about it, I sure hope Renfrew's time to do something about a curb cut right where the trail crosses Hill Street. Not bad if you're going this way because you see it, but if you're coming from the direction of that ATV over there and you hit that curb and you're not aware of it, and you're going, maybe without necessarily paying the greatest amount of attention, you can easily take a spill. It doesn't take much to cut a curb. Then there are some places along where the Algonquin portion of the trail crosses Highway 17. Now, there used to be railroad crossings here, and protections were in place for the motorists. Maybe we can look at some way to protect the day's users as well. However, again, I understand the Ottawa Valley Algonquin Trail is a work in progress. And these things, while small, do need time to be addressed. Folks, we do need to address them. On the plus side, I love what Crosby Place and Almont have done with the trails for their towns. Nicely surfaced, they even have a separate lane for ATVs. It's been a couple of years since I last cycled through Carlton Place, and I wonder if they found a way to connect the Ottawa Valley Trail to the Trans-Canada Trail to Ottawa. All they need is some additional signage on Coleman Street where the two almost meet. Petawaba's doing some good things as well, even creating a trailhead. All of our towns and villages are fairly new to the business of making the trails more user-friendly. So my remarks here are in the nature of a good friend just offering some heartfelt advice. Trailheads are another small detail that need to be addressed. Nearly every trail I have traveled has some sort of regular trail access points where you can park a vehicle and get some basic information about the trail. By the way, if you do this, you wind up eventually with Google Maps putting you onto their website, which is a big plus for a person just looking for a place to get on the trail. This was as true in Deadwood, South Dakota on the George S. Nicholson Trail as it was in Hancock, Maryland on the C&O. And both of these are rural towns, basically small towns, but they're located on rural trails. And they all found the need to create a trailhead and invest in some signage because they knew that helps them become a destination. For the Ottawa Valley Algonquin Trail, there are some locations that we already have that can serve as trailheads with just a bit of signage. Most cyclists would rather begin their journeys in a sanctioned location rather than a Walmart parking lot. That's me beginning my trip on the K&P Trail, trying to do a connecting link trail back in 2020. Walmart parking lot it was. Cyclists at the end of a journey, they're almost always thirsty and hungry, and that's something to think about if you'd like to make your town a trailhead for the trail. I've mentioned connecting links a couple of times between our trails, and this is extremely important. We have one of the best potential networks of trails that I have seen anywhere. And as I told you earlier, I've seen a lot of different trails. Between the Ottawa Valley, Algonquin, K&P, Cataraqui, and Trans-Canada Trail, we have over 600 kilometers of already existing trails. It's one of the longest interconnecting networks in North America. That's 600 kilometers of potential cycling with only a few places where a rider needs to watch out for cars, and it's a network that's still growing. More importantly, a cyclist can do a 320-kilometer loop ride without having to use two vehicles or some means of shuttling from the starting point to the end. That already exists. Add the PP&J on the Quebec side, and you add another 120 kilometers and another possible loop ride. Loops are the coming trend in trail development, and we already have two of them that are nearly 100% complete. All we really need to do is make some connections. The biggest argument I could make for cashing in on cycle tourism, we have one of the finest resources for mostly off-road based, trail-based cycle tourism that I've seen anywhere in the world. The K&P and Cataraqui trails are already nicely connected near Harrismith, and Smiths Falls either has or is in the process of connecting the Cataraqui to the Ottawa Valley. Renfrew has connected the K&P and Algonquin Trail, and they've done a nice job of it. However, the K&P still needs a few tweaks. For example, if I did not know better, I would think the K&P ends in Calabogie. When the causeway there, where the railroad crossed Calabogie Lake was cut, following that route became a bit problematic. However, a fairly short detour down Highway 511 to Berryvale Road will take the cyclist back to the trail at Berryvale, where, if you didn't know this already, Margot Kidder began her movie career long before she became Lois Lane in that Superman. A bit of shoulder paving and a sign or two can heal this cut. There are also some places where the old railroad route now shares space with Highway 509. But this can be fixed with a bit of paved shoulders. Highway 509 is not a particularly busy road. I rode this route in 2020. I called it my Grand Tour de Rails. Other folks probably know it by some other names. This name, I've seen it around on a few other websites. To me, it's one of the most enjoyable rides I've ever done, and this was during the summer of the pandemic when services were scarce. And I'm anxious to do it again in better times, maybe even again before the year's out. So, back to that question at the beginning. Just what do we have to offer cycle tourists, and are we ready? From my point of view, and that of a few others who are actually in the business of selling cycle tourism, the answer is yes. We're pretty much ready right now. A quick search on the internet turns up some actual tours, both guided and self-contained, being offered here right now. And we have at least one tour operator in the room with us today. Cindy Jameson of Valley Cycle Tours of Jameson Travel is already selling tours right in our backyard, as are a few others. There are also organizations, some that are here today, that are also already promoting cycle tourism. Nearly every municipal government from the county level down to the towns and municipalities mention cycling on their websites. Our regional and local organizations also do a good job of what we have to offer. You know that we actually have 3 different RTOs that represent the area that is covered by this particular trail network. That's not just one, that's 3 RTOs, each with an infrastructure and staff that could work together to help us pull all this together. What we need now is for to unite all these fine efforts into a program and a plan to take it to the next level. The program developed by the Progress Fund called Trail Towns shows us one way to accomplish this. Working together towards a goal that works for all of us is successful in the USA. And as you've heard, it's working right here in Canada along the Trent Severn Waterway. Can we make it work for us? Well, folks, I guess that's up to all of us, starting with those of us here in the room. And I think, as I said before, the leadership of this is coming out of this room. And that's something for us to think about and talk about as we enjoy lunch. And are there any questions? Hungry people. Okay, go ahead, Rod.
Jeff, I would like to invite you to maybe stop at the Tea Train North in Quebec on your way down to the Gap.
Okay, that one's on my list as well.
Questions? Lunch? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Thanks for your presentation, Bob. My name is Richard. I'm responsible for the K&P Trail in Frontenac County. One of the things that I've been learning in 6 years of developing trail is that we end up doing a lot of things as trail people. We focus on our trail. We focus on the infrastructure of the trail. And I really want to just highlight Brenda's presentation where it comes back to the people and the communities and the businesses along the trail. And I've really made that mistake of like being focused on the beavers that keep washing out my trail, or the gravel, or the grade of the gravel, and really trying to be specific so it appeals to everyone from an infrastructure standpoint. But a lot of, especially your first part of your presentation, Bob, was about the types of experiences you felt along the way. And you were very focused on infrastructure in your last here, and I didn't want to end on that note, because I think what I've learned is I have to go back to my community and really work with my businesses and my communities to get them to embrace the fact that they have trails there and that they can celebrate it. And so I just wanted to highlight that from the overall presentations, and thank you for pulling people together. Because if you want this to work, we really have to focus on people and not gravel. All right, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.